technical session. It is titled Embodied Resistance, Body and Space. We have three presentations in this segment. One is from B. Ravichandran, another from Sreejesh NP, the last one from Mr. Sandeep Viswanath. So each presenters will be getting 15 minutes time, and after 15 minutes you will be getting a reminder. So we'll start with Mr. B. Ravichandran. He is talking about politics of space of Indian toilet, extreme binaries from untouchable to touchable. So I welcome Mr. Ravichandran.
So good afternoon, friends. I thank Joby on the chair and others and the faculty members of this department, and I'm very honored to present this paper in front of Professor Satish Deshpande. I have never got an opportunity to present, and my friend Professor Sanal Mohan sir. Actually, this is a paper I wrote. Anyway, these guys are not telling about my qualification. I did my postdoctorate, and I was doing my writing fellowship. During the writing fellowship, I started thinking about this new topic. So the issue was, I've been working on sanitation in India. So I started with the work of sanitation of identical community, looking into the language first initially. So when I looked into the language, there was a problem. For example, in Tamil Nadu, Chaklar community considered as a non-native. So all the time the sanitation workers are said to be migrant in Tamil Nadu. So interestingly, it is in Kerala also, Chaklers are considered as a migrant. So when I studied, I thought I should write what is this debate about migration? Because they are scavengers, so-called scavengers. So there I looked. Then while looking into the scavenging, I saw it is not about Tamil Nadu scavengers alone. Across India, majority of the states, all of them have called us as migrant community. So West Bengal, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh. Interestingly, in UP, Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, they speak Hindi. But there is a linguist, social linguist, who said, like this, Lebos, letter, R, they say. So similar to that, the Bangis in UP speak a different tone, a Hindi, than the others. So it is a heartland. So that should solve all their issues, okay? So let me say one thing. Across India, majority of the Indian states, scavenging community is called as a non-native. So this is not related to one particular caste. So I shifted my focus to caste. So while studying caste, I had to study the work of the scavenger. Because earlier I was looking into the language. So language took me to the community. Now when I studied community, I have to look into the so-called profession. So when I started studying the profession, you study manual death, manual scavenging act. That has been happening 1990 onwards. There is a huge movement. But then there are many books have been written. There are many books, I don't remember now, India's Thinking, Untouchable, Freedom, so many books have been written on this subject. But still, there is no solution. I'm not asking solution. All are falling in the same format. So it was confusing me. What is the problem? Because I cannot write the same book or same story of others already written. It will be a third story. Because my mother and father comes from, I'm not taking it very personal, just for the research purpose I'm saying. My mother and father came from this community, and they always told me since the beginning that I have to do something for this work. Because this work, my mother and father used to say, two things they used to say. This work is not untouchable, but the way the work has been done, made to be done by the government is untouchable. So therefore they would say, for example, my father would say, see, this work gives me food. Don't talk ill about the work, but there is a problem with this work. So they said, please do something. In my childhood they used to say, because I was the only person in my area was studying. So my mother had a hope. So therefore, I was thinking what to be done. Then always I used to sit and in a toilet. I was studying in Indian Institute of Advanced Study as a fellow. I was sitting in the toilet and thinking what to, I love toilet, okay? Sitting in the toilet, I really think a lot. Not like with the pant, shitting and thinking is very unique. So I sit there and I thought, then an idea came about Zizek. Zizek made a breakthrough in my research. Before going to the Zizek, my topic, what to talk is, it would ask all of us to revisit the caste hierarchy. For example, this caste hierarchy, I don't agree with this. I say this is wrong. So then this is, this hierarchy is about Brahmins on the top, these others at bottom. This is one mainstream argument, including Dalits, okay? So I do not agree with this argument. You will follow in my research, if you have in my presentation. Then the second one, this is also wrong equality, equity. This is also wrong understanding. These all things I will be addressing in my research. So now, coming back to Zizek. See, Zizek said something. See, this is very interesting. In France, but before going there, you don't read that. Zizek says, in YouTube video, he hasn't written a paper on this. He been traveling across Europe. And across Europe, he found something very unique. He found that toilet shitting was something very unique. See, we all had a good food, right? Vegetarian biryani, ghee, with ghee, people eating. Like that, even shitting also have different types of shitting, okay? You might think that just eating and shitting. No, that is what Zizek said. He found something very interesting across Europe. All the toilet commode was in different shapes. And he got something very interesting and asked architecture, calling him and asking that he is a philosopher. So he had many contacts, right? What time I should stop?
You have time up to 2:34, maximum 2:40.
Yeah. So he asked all the architecture, he took the books of architecture to study why this toilet is constructed like this. No answer was there. That found him interesting. So therefore, he started analyzing it. So that's where he comes this philosophy. It's a very, very interesting one. He said, in France, the toilet basin has a hole in the back, so when you produce excrement, it quickly falls in the hole. The German toilet is the opposite. The hole is in the front, so when you produce excrement, they are displaced. A German ritual in the morning to inspect and sniff and analyze. The Anglo-Saxon way, the toilet is full of water, it flows before it disappears. Each of them standing for a certain level of social life and cultural politics. So this is where he says, if you want to study a culture, you have to look to the place where you never ever imagined to look. So that is where he says, look into your toilet. You will know what is your culture in it. So therefore he says, German metaphysics. You shit, you analyze, you sniff, you find. That's a German ritual. To see whether you have a disease. So they float it, the morning they do that. And there is a poetry also conservative. And he says, France is a revolutionary. You just flush it, flush it goes away. Approach, then liquidate it. Anglo-Saxon pragmatic. It comes, it floats, and then it goes away. So this is one thing which triggered me to study whether something is there in Indian toilet. And I was studying in Indian of advanced study, a British architect there. And it amazed me, it blown me that architect in India, toilet, my argument from this where I take, architect in India, toilet toilet architecture itself is a cultural output, for an Indian cultural output. For an example, they construct outside the house or no toilet. So mostly they go for open defecation. So it's a footnote, okay? Footnote is, most often we all say that sanitation workers, you use gloves, mask, everything. But none of our asses are cleaned by gloves, right? We all have to use your bare hand. And you know the history, when Indians, many people died because of diarrhea. You know why? Wiping on your own hand and washing. Then these guys many Indians come and say that you wear a mask and you wear gloves. So that is hypocrite, I mean to say. That's a footnote, okay? So therefore, this toilet was significant for me. Then I saw architect British. Okay, let us leave British. Then I come to my childhood experience of schools. In my school, boys' high school, there was no toilets. There were only 2 toilets for teachers, that too women faculty and men faculty, 2 toilets. There won't be a water in it, and for students there was no toilet. Break time we used to go and urinate outside. So there was no toilet, and then you go and study the books, and there was a appeal file. There have been many women literature said schools do not have toilets, and many women dropped out of the schools because there was no toilet. So toilet were never part of the imagined mind. Then interestingly, then I studied this Indian village structures. For example, the government village structure. You know, government, if they wants to give some 100 houses, they have a formality. What are the formality? The houses will be there, they'll give a space for build to temple and probably water body and houses, that's it, no public toilets. So therefore, the government, and you know, earlier houses, like for the government built houses in 1940s, 50s, 60s, for sanitation workers, government quarters, nowhere there were toilets. So for government quarters, which are higher officials, toilets were built outside the house. So therefore, you have to go outside the house. So these things were always there. So therefore, there was this problem of space and toilet was very unique to India. That was my argument. So now, I found okay, this is one thing simply I can leave and move forward. Then there came a big debate in social science, especially in EPW. There was this great millennium, there was a book, the book was written, I'm forgetting his name, I'll give you his name. So he writes a book and he says that he's a novelist, Nepal, Nepal writes a book. In that book he says, Indians shit all over the place. So then he writes, so immediately all the Indian social scientists get very angry, agitated. They write article after article after article in EPW to defend that this is a glorious culture. You do not know, you are a Western. That is where the Eurocentralism argument comes. So there is a Dipesh Chakravarti brings that argument. Before going into that, let's tolerate what I said. So let us look into the past, theologically how toilet has been seen. So this is one open defecation. How they were romanticizing the caste Hindus. Okay, somebody was saying upper caste, right? I say caste Hindus, not upper caste. Nobody is upper, nobody is lower. That's where I say it is not that I was born as a Hindu. No, I was never born as a Hindu. I was born as a child from my mother. The society gave me a brand. So therefore, I don't have anybody. Even if I change anything, that is the society has to change. That's why society never changes. So you know, in UP, 2 Dalit girls were raped. So there was this sociologist, I suppose, from TIS. She writes that, see, going to the fields provides women with the space to chat and hang out among themselves. She further elicits the need to discuss, debate, engage. So she says that basically her argument of hers was, there were many people arguing that same tone. They say, women going outside to shit in open defecation, it was revolutionary because that is the only space women can speak. The morning they'll speak, they'll go and shit. So that is what they found. So the women, I'll be very open. I'm very open to debate. Women could have argued some other place, not asking that this is the only place. If she says that women can only speak there, the problem is not there. The problem should be elsewhere. You cannot come and justify women going outside for toilet, because women going outside toilet, I don't know how many people's mother and father and sisters went outside toilets. So you know, in our houses, we go to women, most of our women go for open defecation outside. 5 o'clock they should go, or 9 o'clock, daytime they can't even go, and 5 o'clock they go, they have to wait whether men are sitting and torturing and torching and watching and security, privacy. This is not upper caste, okay? Dalit women have been raped even for going outside for defecation. So it is not the case, for public is not always the same. So that is one thing. So Srivijay Kaviraj, what he says is, public urination is disobedient act, he says. Men urinating in public. That is a hypocrite argument, because I say men is a privileged position to urinate anywhere, because it's a patriarchal society where men can urinate anywhere. So therefore, that is not an argument. So this is the problem of women toilets and the roots of pollution. This is the philosophical work, how they see. See, the Mary Douglas is one of the pioneer work which Mary Douglas on purity and danger. She writes that, see, basic thing is, now you should understand one concept. Now toilet is a problem. In India, caste system is a problem. Let us not go there. Here what they argue is, see, waste is considered everywhere waste in India, across the globe. The problem in India is, you are not cleaning your own body. The scavengers are not keeping clean. If they keep clean, if you do it very professionally, so-called professionally, then everybody will be treated equally. That is the argument, valorizing the argument of the work. So another argument I would say, see, you are doing a great job. In their opinion, or in my opinion, I would say, even the Brahmins' work and the caste works of all 5 castes is an enforced work, I would say. Because one work might be a good, another work may not be a good. But caste labor is a caste labor. So Brahmins love the priestly work, scavengers do not like that work. But everything is a caste work. So therefore, they started valorizing it. This is the same valorization, Gandhi said that. So what did Gandhi say is, Gandhi says that scavenging children, Harijan, children of God, This is Nepal's. And Chakrabarti writes and Andhra Mithila writes. So this, I'm coming to the modern thing. And Veena Das also writes the same thing about toilet and architecture, toilet, especially shitting habit, and the manual scavengers. So coming to the new point, Nepal's argument that Indian defecates, Chakrabarti argues that he says you have to look India from a modern perspective, not from the Western perspective. Modern perspective is Indians throw garbage anywhere, wherever they want to they throw, but that is the way they behave. You have to understand them not as a backward, but you have to understand them, go to an Indian marketplace. The marketplace is disorganized for you, but it is organized for us. That is the argument he brings. Then he says, for example, in India, in a house, you take a garbage and you put it outside. Morning, one person comes, he collects and goes. So that is the one argument he keeps. Then this Chakrabarti and Subhita Kaviraj earlier argument. So this argument, how I argue is, now I come to an argument of bringing them. Even Andhra Bithile's caste, class and power. In caste, class and power, Andhra Bithile clearly says he is researching the Brahmin community, interacting with the OBC community. And he clearly says, when the Brahmin moved out of the house, OBCs entered the house. He clearly says in that book that Dalits were not allowed into that house. Okay, let us keep that. That is a pioneer book, they say, also landmark book in caste. But interestingly, Andhra Bithile forgot one space in the Agraharam architecture. Yeah, okay. So Agraharam architecture. So here I argue the space what I was telling outside and the inside. The toilet as an outside. Either whether toilet is there, if you build toilet, it is outside there. You know, Indian Swachh Bharat campaign, toilet was asked to build outside the house. So it is outside. So toilet becoming modernization. He promoted everybody to clean and shit. But my argument is, it is Gandhi who promoted manual scavenging in India. So that is one. So I have 3 minutes. So one argument. So one point is, Agrahara is the main structure here. So toilet is built out and outside. So now I take, where does this toilet being built outside the house comes from? I go to the root of Hinduism. Agrahara architecture, which Andhra Bithile talked. In Agrahara, the toilet were constructed outside the house. And then in temples, there were no toilets. Do you know there is no temple toilets? Toilets are not allowed in temple, and Dalits are not allowed in temple. Okay, so the spaces, the spatial location of Dalits and the toilet were always considered outside. So here, the untouchability of notion of being outside and inside, or the oppressor and the oppressive, or the caste notion is not hierarchical. It is reproduced by the structure of toilet. So one example I'll give you and I'll stop. In discussion I'll explain. See, you know this, in Tamil Nadu there was one murder case on Swami, there is Shankaramat, Kanchi Shankaramat, there was a murder and they came to arrest him. Saturday, the first time in history of High Court, on Saturday, Ramjit Malani comes to take a bail. And that time Chief Minister was Jayalalitha, none other than Jayalalitha. She knows how to handle. You know, interesting, she filed a petition. Ramjit Malani's argument was in the court that this is a temple. It's where he lives, Swami lives, it's a temple. He should not, government should not interfere. The opposite argument was, no, it is not temple, because in temple you don't have toilets. In Shankara Mutt, you have toilets. So therefore, it cannot be considered as a temple. So toilet has been very, very crucial for Hindu architecture. So now, I don't go for Hinduism. If you ask me where caste came out, I would say the emergence of the architecture we find. So one last point is about the Britishers, I would like to say. See, when people say that Britishers, last point I believe, Britishers, people say that Britishers came and they supported the caste system, right? I'll give you some evidence. You go to British architecture, Indian stuff advanced study, the building or build out, here also you can go anywhere of British architecture. The British architecture is unique to India. The reason is the toilet has been constructed the space away from the main place. Even if the toilet is constructed in the palace or in the main hall, the access to the toilet for the sweepers will be round stairs. In India, anywhere you find the round circle stairs, it's exclusively built for the scavengers. And this is not, I'm saying, some abrupt from somewhere utopian idea. No, it is a blueprint of the architecture of Britishers. But the same Britishers who built architect in abroad never built the toilet as separate. Here they built toilet adjacent toilet entrance. The sweeper's entrance was separate, and the main entrance, servants' entrance was separate. So here the classification of sweepers and servants were mainly there. So therefore I argue Britishers incorporated that. So at last I would say the caste system is not about five architecture. It is a notion about who cleans, who not cleans, who is a pure, who is not a pure. And this idea is not about exclusivity of one community. For example, Brahmin thinking that no, I am a Brahmin, he is a Chaklier. No, Chaklier thinking that no, I am a Chaklier. No. Even Chaklier building house, outside the house, not building the toilet, because he agrees that kind of a philosophy of purity pollution, he also subscribes to it. So therefore, this is how the caste is reproduced, not by the five architecture, I would argue. So last point is, in India, that's all no plan. The last point is, in India, the spatial location of toilet and the human being educating that space only has a meaning. For an example, my body, I cannot walk in the main village. So, and that village is a public space until and unless I walk into that space. When Dalits walk, they attack. So therefore, the space and the body is something very crucially forgotten, have not paid much attention in anti-caste theories. So therefore, I rest my argument here. I wait for the other presentation and question answer sessions. Thank you, brother.
Okay, thank you, Ravi, for nice presentation. Now I invite Mr. Sreejesh. He'll be speaking on the socio-spatial segregation and stigmatization, conceptualizing the life experience of Dalit colonies in Kerala.
First, I would like to thank Dr. Joby and Dr. Rajesh Komath sir for this wonderful opportunity. This research basically is a part of my postdoctoral inquiry about Dalit colonies in Kerala. I just started research the last June 2024, so still almost 1 year is over. In Kerala, we have almost 30 lakhs scheduled caste population, in which more than 23 lakhs people are, scheduled caste people are living in different types of colonies like Lakshambed, Nalisant is a 4 cent, Harijan, scheduled caste colony, Ambedkar colony, and IHDP colony. So that kind of different sort of colonies are there. Very interestingly, this colony, the land ownership of this Dalit community scheduled caste people, they have only control over 4 or 6 son. That is the major picture of the colonies. But there are some exceptional cases, but the majority of the scheduled caste people in the colony, they have control over 4 or 6 sun land. In Kerala, according to the statistics of the government, we have 26,000, more than 26,000 large and very small colonies, almost 26,000. These are the district picture, I mean district level picture of the colonies. The problem is they have ownership over 4 or 6 land, but they don't have any sort of productive land. These spaces, when we look into these spaces in terms of spatially, this is typically marginalized areas from the mainstream. Like in some extent we can call it is like a ghettos. Socially, some extent we can see that these people, they're known as like colonicar, something they are different. I mean, these people are different in terms of social, in something, in cultural. Also, I just started my field work. I traveled from the colonies from Malabar to the South Zone. From Malabar, I have visited some colonies in Malappuram. In Kottayam, I have visited in colonies in Mandimala and Madapalli. The question is, how the images of SC colonies created and circulated in the public discourse. Also, how we understand the complex process of social and spatial segregation. Then how space is influential factor in determining the social and cultural identity of scheduled caste people, those who are living in colonies. Very interestingly, when I traveled from north to south, there are different variables among the colonies. South zone is different from the Malabar. Malabar is colonies are different from, in some sort, different from the middle Kerala, that I will explain later. The fundamental argument and objective of my paper to develop the, I think when I started to study about the life experience of Dalit colony, I'm not sure whether it is right or wrong, but the colony life, that something different from, those who are living outside the colonies. So we need to approach, understand their life, something in a different way. More academically, we have to conceptualize. We have to understand as a conceptual category to analyze the life experiences of Dalit colony. Then only we can understand the backwardness of social, cultural and economic backwardness of Dalit colony. If we analyze the problem of Dalit colony within the framework of our, conventional untouchability oppression, I think it will be a challenge. It will be limit in some sense. Then there I think we need to open another discussion that we have to approach more, I think, in their life, cultural, social and economic life, which is something different. So we need to develop a conceptual understanding about Dalit colony. That is the fundamental. I mean, when I started to study about Dalit colony, I realized that we need to approach this problem in a different way, because their life experience is something different from those who are living in the outside colonies. Because I have interacted with outside people, because when I started to ask, I mean, interact with personal interaction with the outside people, I was asking that, so what's your, what kind of problem you are facing? Initially they replied, we are not living in the colonies. We don't have a crisis as a colony car, as a colony dwellers, as a colony people. We have a crisis as a scheduled caste or untouchable caste. But we don't have that kind of crisis. But when I asked to the people from the colony, they are saying, we want to escape from the colony. We have to initially, what is your, if we are giving the choice, what would be you will prefer? They said, we want to initially, at the moment we need to escape from the colony. Many colonies, many people, many Dalit communities are living from the colony. I have visited many colonies there. I have noticed that most of the new generation people, they don't like to live in the colonies. They are leaving from the colonies. They are escaping from the colony. So in that sense, I think we need to understand, study this problem as something in their different experience as a conceptual category. The discussion, I think, Joby, 10 minutes, okay. So I will bring some part, I will skip my discussion, so I think I need to discuss some important part. To explain the formation of colonies, we need to approach the issue in terms of historical, political and economic level. That is also very important to understand the formation of the colony, because in the initial level there was a historical intervention from the Dalit leaders, especially from Ayyankali, Purgal, Apachan and Kurumban Devatan. They were demanding for the land. That was a historical context. There, that was the beginning stage of the, in some extent, some level, some sort, the old form of the colonies like Chalakudi, Pulaya colony, Nayadi colony, and then Sajamothapuram colony. These all colonies are established during the colonial period. But it was a historical attempt to address the problem of the land, because they were completely outside from the land ownership. The second stage, especially during the land reforms period, there was a political interest, a political, what we call something politically, land became a political question. So, in such, that context, Dalits were very carefully, very strategically marginalized from the entire process of land reforms in the second stage. That we need to understand in terms of more political perspective. In the third stage, I think in recent stage, I have visited many colonies. Some of the people are leaving from the colony. They are selling the colony, their land in the colony. They are not getting the market value. Very near to the colony, you will get 1 lakh, But if you are selling the land of 1 cent in the colonies, you will get only maybe 20 or 10,000 rupees for per cent. So in that sense, I think we need to, address the question in terms of economic level. I have visited many colonies. There I was mainly asking about their privacy of their life. There is, even in colony, in the inside colonies, there is no a proper pathway to move around inside the colonies. How they maintain their privacy, how they maintain their everyday life. Then how the spatial, I was asking to the many people in the colonies, they respond to me, if you are giving, what you think about the productive land. Even in their imagination, there is no productive land, because they are constrained, they are limited, their thinking, their identity is limited within this very congested areas. So that's why they are not thinking about whether the way is very important to move inside the colonies. Okay. I think I need to just explain the regional differences of the colonies. This is also my initial observation. I don't know it is very right or wrong, but this is an initial observation about the regional variability among the colonies. Here in the north side, most of the colonies are very passive and silent. In the middle part, the colonies are in some extent active and organized. In the southern part, the colonies are some level assertive and expressive. When we look into the issue more micro level, especially political and other social elements, when we use the framework of political, something ideological, something social, something cultural, so you will, I think we will find the answer, but I am confused about why these regional differences. So in my research, I think I need to find something, further I need to in-depth analysis to understand this variability. But that is a very, when we, visit, when we, when we go the colonies, you will very clearly feel these differences. Some of the, colonies are in Malabar silent and passive. Why, again, I am just making that the same point, why we need to conceptually develop something academically as a category, as a conceptual category, because of generally we study the issue of Dalit colonies under the frame of caste, untouchability and oppression. Because the people from the colonies, they are facing in some extent a dual burden. One is they are the direct victim of caste hierarchy and oppression. On the other side, they are socially and spatially, they segregate as a colony car, as a Purambok. So I am just finishing my presentation. So my suggestion and objective, my fundamental concern about this issue is, in academia, we need to address the issue, to understand the issue of Dalit colonies something different to develop as a category. I don't know whether it's conceptual category or social category. I'm just making that in a positive sense to address, to analyze, to explain the real problem of the Dalit colonies in Kerala. Thank you.
Thank you, Sreejesh, for a nice presentation. Now I invite Mr. Sandeep Viswanath. He speak on the beneath the earth, Gravediggers and the resistance of marginalized narratives in graveyards in Bangalore.
Yeah? Arrow mark. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's a post-lunch session. This biryani is acting on us. I'll try to keep you engaging as much as possible. As you can see, this is my title. I'm associated with the Indian Institute for Human Settlements. By profession, I'm a filmmaker. Accidentally, I got into research. Also, because of a chance encounter with a person called Trivikrama, who lived in Bangalore in the Victoria Hospital. I happened to meet him by chance, and while talking to him, I discovered that he had buried 80,000 orphan bodies in the morgue in Victoria Hospital. So that's when this quest for making film started, and when Christ University kind of opened up practice-based PhD, that's when I applied, and this was formalized into a research kind of a thing. Based in Bangalore, I'm sure you all know where Bangalore is around. This was mostly made for people who doesn't know the global south. Excuse me for that slide. Basically, it is through my literature survey I also understood that graveyard was in the focus of study from anthropologists and historians for its spatial value, but nobody had looked into people who actually live there. This research is not about the people who are dead and buried in the graveyard, but is about the people who work in the graveyard and who live in the graveyard space. This is the Wilson Garden burial ground. One can also argue that this also demonstrates the cosmopolitan nature of Bangalore. You can see, if you can identify some of the alphabets, some of the graves are named or written in Telugu, Kannada, Tamil. A lot of people who lived in Bangalore come from various ethnic backgrounds and linguistic backgrounds. So my initial study was very aspirational, so to say, to be honest. I was thinking that I will study 15 burial grounds, I will go everywhere, talk to everyone, they will give me responses that I want. Over 6 months I realized not a single person was, ready to talk to me because of the precarity which I much later understood. And also there were precedences where journalists were spying on these workers for news, sensational news that these burial ground people are selling skeletal to medical colleges and things like that, which is not the case, to be honest. Being in that space for 4 years, I can vouch for that. So it happened so that various bureaucratic and logistical reason, it is also part-time PhD, I have a day job to look at. So I kind of narrowed down to 3 burial grounds where the respondents were very cooperative. Also because, again, a chance encounter, because I happened to go there on a day when they had a union meeting. So I happened to get like 15 graveyard workers in one space, and it happened so that they there was a lot of trust built on initial. It snowballed into like 3 sites which were responding to me, so to say. So in most of the thing I will rely on the findings or the narrative that I kind of came from the field, where you can continuously see systemic barriers and historical exclusion is the constant thing that comes across in most spaces. And in terms of theoretical background, I kind of use Ambedkarite lens in understanding what caste is, and also his basic argument that caste is division of labor, not labor but laborer, which is mostly endogamous in nature, hence it becomes laborer, not labor, like Gandhi argued. So don't think so. You can see the video, but it's okay. I can create the picture for you. Kalpalli Hindu burial ground. On papers, it is not Hindu burial ground. On papers of BBMP, where we have a portal where you can apply for a cremation slot, it is not mentioned as Hindu. But if you go to the burial site or the graveyard, it is written the word Hindu. There is more argument and clarity for myself that is required to kind of understand how these cultural nuances play out in field and books otherwise. But if you look at this particular graveyard, there is Sauri Raja, who works as a grave digger, his son Shant, and his daughter works as a writer in the graveyard burial ground. So this is Satya, Sauri Raja's daughter. She has finished her graduation, and in the narrative you can see, so basically Sauri Raja has 6 children. Sauri Raja himself is the 7th generation graveyard or the burial digger in that particular site. Satya happens to be the 8th. The nature of job is different. She is a writer. She has an office job where she keeps the record of the incoming dead bodies and gives out the, all the death certificate or anything that is related to the cremation related. But many of her narratives actually was talking about spatial exclusion and also continuous humiliation. Like my brother had to face a lot of problems in the school just because he was not able to answer a particular thing in the class. He was told, anyway you are a grave digger son, you will end up there, you don't need to come here, and things like that. Satya herself, Kalpalli graveyard is around, nobody has measured it, and I've tried to look into this. Everybody tries to keep their boundaries secure, but the government, they themselves don't know how much burial grounds they have, what is the extent of it, where is the boundary, who owns it. Nothing is kind of available, at least through my 4 years of running around pillar to post in BBMP. But the graveyard workers themselves argue that it is around 250 acres, so to say a good lung space in the city of Bangalore, and this has at least 200 years of history. There again, we don't have data. I'm just saying from the field notes and the narrative that I've heard from the people. So in this entire 250 acres of campus, there is not a single toilet, there is not a tap, there is no water, and there are close to 40 people who live in this graveyard, who actually write their address as diggers' quarters when they need to receive a letter from whoever. But there is an again exclusion there. No postman has ever walked into the Kalpalli graveyard to deliver a post. No Swiggy person comes into the graveyard to deliver food. They eat food, they order food, they can afford to. There is a chai kada outside the graveyard where this person receives, and then later they get to receive it from that person. So basically, there is no acknowledgement or there is no proper system for them to kind of have a proper housing or toilet or water, any other facility that is kind of okay. This is Satya. We are also filming with the people there with to kind of make this into a film. So while filming, we realized that the graveyard is always busy. Somebody or the other keeps dying in the city and the footfall is quite high. So we could not get any time out of their work. So we started a very natural conversation while the work was happening, and whenever there was break, they would respond to us. And while they were transacting, that site also was a kind of observation from the researchers, try to kind of see how empathetically they kind of deal with the clients, so to say, because somebody has lost their son, children, whatever it is, so they also cannot be very rude and harsh, and this empathy kind of is self-taught. It is not mandated by anybody. It's a human-to-human connection that they kind of developed up, despite the kind of oppression and the kind of exclusion they go through themselves. Raja, I agree with the professor when he said you need to treat your subject as more intelligent, 3 times more intelligent or 4 times more intelligent. Raja, according to me, is the most intelligent person that I have come across in my life. And the way, the clarity of thought that he has, the kind of education that he has gone through, on papers he is illiterate, is barely past 4th standard, but the kind of understanding that he has of the world, of people and the lot of social movements in India is a testament to the kind of statement he throws, and the kind of analogy that he uses can actually speak a lot about his thing. He says, this house is that belonged to us, as in other words, Dalit, that only when the constitution came into picture, not when the independence was granted to this nation. That means that we got more independent, or we got our rights right in place after the execution of the constitution in this country. So apparently this study was started just 1 year before COVID struck, and for a lot of reason I didn't want the COVID to kind of hog the entire research, because COVID was entirely about death and things like that. But like you can see, there was plague in Bangalore 150 years ago. There were so many environmental catastrophes, but deaths have been happening. I didn't want to lose the focus to COVID, so I've tried to maintain as much as the focus to the workers and their plight. COVID is just a chapter in one of the pages in this thesis. Next is the Hebal Hindu burial ground. This is in the northern part of Bangalore. There again, it is not less than, currently, not less than 70 acres is the estimate that the workers give there. A lot of land is actually lost to a mall which is come right next to it, and it was also earlier owned by the Parsi community. We do have a Parsi burial ground in the very close to the Hebal Hindu burial ground. In between these two burial ground, there is a tech park, there is a mall, and the new airport road, which also has come. Chandru, one of the workers here, says wherever he buried his father in the graveyard, he is on the other side of the airport road, which is actually dividing his father's burial, which is no more a burial space as of today, owing to real estate kind of appropriation done in the city. Chandru, his son Chetan works in the same graveyard. The father works in the burial ground and the son works in the crematorium. Chandru himself migrated from a small village from Hassan, which is around 4 hours drive from Bangalore, for various precarious nature of his earliest job he was doing in the village, being a Dalit, that his family kind of continued what we call in Kannada chakri. Chakri is those miscellaneous job that we, Dalit communities are actually kind of subjected to work, like anything to do with dirt, scavenging and burying the dead. So from there, the story for him doesn't change after migration. He ends up in this burial ground, and so does his son. Chetan has finished his diploma in electrical, but during COVID, he understood that he was not employable elsewhere for the kind of social backgrounds that he belongs to, and after various attempts he ends up working with his father. And we have Neenama also, who kind of works in the same Hebal burial ground. Neenama's experience is that she is 4th standard, like she dropped out of school after 4th standard, and she had to drop out because her own teacher continuously humiliated her for the particular kind of dress she wore to the school, and she couldn't bear it, and then eventually ended up in the graveyard where her grandmother used to work, and Neenama is the 6th generation grave digger in that same space. And her quest to understand the world or to learning has never stopped, and she continues to learn through whatever ways in which she can do that. This is a Hebal burial ground. And talking about Chandru, like I said, he came from Hassan, and sorry, I have 5 minutes, okay, fine. So he could not escape the same kind of menial jobs his family did in Hassan, Holanarsipura, the small village where he came from, right? And in my understanding, however politically aware Raja is, Chandru is equally. Every day I get a message from Chandru, something to do with constitution or to do with Dalit rights and activism. These are the messages that he himself types and kinds of share to me and many others who are there in his WhatsApp list. His son Chetan, like I said, the kind of discrimination, one is his father always wanted Chetan and his brother Suyog also to kind of study in English medium for various reasons, but the authorities there constantly kept demanding or make situations that they could continue the education in Kannada medium. And this scenario that you can read says, like, just because you are a student who gets free bicycle from the government, you are a quota student, so you never will prosper. That kind of humiliation, that kind of faced by Chetan in the school, kindly made sure that he continued his education in Kannada. And hence employability is not as much as English medium, that I don't need to specifically mention. And while being in the graveyard, we also realize people have different kind of relationship also. The one who's wearing the shawl is the writer in that particular space, and they celebrate birthdays. There is also marriages that are witnessed within the graveyard, because it is very difficult to find a marriage hall for these. And second is also economic factor, they can't afford. So I've seen many rituals like this also happen in the graveyard. What also came to my notice is that after all these life trajectories, one thing is that their political awareness made them what they are today, as in I'll come to that part of what they are today, not definitely in the most possible best way they can be, is that their political awareness allowed them to form this union called Prabuddha Ambedkar Dalit Sanghar Samiti, through which they collectively bargained, constantly kind of protested. They have protested in graveyards, burying themselves, sitting under the grave that is dug and protesting, and many other forms until 2007. Until 2014, they were paid a meager honorarium of 1,000 rupees by the government. That means that were not workers in the space despite being there, because they were paid honorarium of 1,000 rupees. That also meant that the precarity or the precarious nature of the job is continued by keeping them at the edge, by paying them the menial amount. That also meant they had to they have to depend on the alms given by the deceased family, if at all they were willing or wishing. And also it's very difficult. I have myself seen that you have a deceased family members, in their time of bereavement, you can't go them, ask them the money that in other jobs that you would easily negotiate, so to say. So 2014, with their collective bargain, they kind of were able to find a contractual labor kind of a contract with the BBMP, which is a municipality, which granted them 10,400 rupees per month. As of today, recalibrating or adjusting to that the Karnataka state's minimum wages, that is 17,000 some odd rupees that is being paid. To answer among the three problems or the factors that keep them in this particular occupation is social, economic and spatial mobility. Economics is to some extent can be sorted. From the morning everybody is arguing about the social mobility and the spatial mobility, the kind of thing that is required. It's very difficult until a larger the society also participates actively in this kind of upliftment or work towards making their lives better. So to say, I also firm believer that I don't know what is a culture here. In Karnataka, during Dasara, there is this festival called Mahalya Amavasya, during which a lot of people give respects to their ancestors by kind of believing to give them some food, which is usually kept on the grave where they were buried. In terms of cremation, it will be on the roof of the house where they give, and it is believed that their spirits will come and visit and eat this food. And I observed because of the economic and social conditions, a lot of grave diggers depend on this food because after the relatives or the people leave, this is the same food that they kind of have to nourish themselves with. So I strongly believe, at least hope, that a day comes when these people cook these food separately for the grave diggers and their relatives separately, and that is the day I believe this kind of social mobility we might have achieved this kind of social and cultural change in this particular space. And with that I conclude my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. We have three interesting presentations and a lot of arguments actually related to this, the speciality, architecture, the spatial discrimination and so on. However, before I open the floor, I request Professors Raju and Professor Sanal Mohans are here. We actually invited them to comment on all these papers. So before I open floor, I request Raju Mash and Sanal Mash to comment, and after that I will open the floor to everyone.
I don't have a question, direct question to you, but I have a query to both Sreejesh and Ravichandran, so not Ravichandran, Sandeep. Have you looked into the subjectivity of the colony people and gravediggers? Have you looked into the subjectivity of the gravediggers? Subjectivity. So also colony dwellers. This is a question where I asked is that it would really open up tremendous scope for conceptual analysis. That's why I thought this question is important. So also I asked this question out of my curiosity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentations. I listened carefully to the scholars who presented their papers. As I said in the earlier occasion also, I think the most important thing is to talk about the materials with which you work. For example, Sandeep Viswanath, when he talks about the beneath the earth's gravediggers and the resistance of the marginalized resistance of marginalized narratives in graveyards in Bangalore. It actually gives us a lot of things to think about. For instance, how a given culture, what does it do with their dead, and how important is these burial practices are, or as archaeologists would call as mortuary practices. So we are dealing with things that are happening right now, and to see how those who are helping with helping with the burial of the dead, and how they are at the receiving end, how they are being exploited, etc. And also the question of people who are in this particular marginal space, or kind of a non-entity as far as the society is concerned, in relation with these people, not with the graves per se. Then it brings up a very interesting case there. What happens to the people who do this kind of job? Like in the example of Dr. Ravichandran, here again you come across a section of people who are in certain ways, I think, civilizationally marginalized. So there is a real case for offering a critique of that from such a perspective, to see how in different parts of India people have dealt with people who really bury their dead. And now you have also shown, through your ethnographic kind of inquiries, although you gave only a few sentences that your respondents gave, I'm sure that you have a larger story behind all this. You picked a few things out of that to give a representative kind of idea as to how people have been thinking about. And so it's quite surprising to see, because I didn't know much about this intergenerational thing, 6 generations as you have been talking about. People have been in this profession, and then what happens to this? How do they relate with this profession? And you also look forward to a possible kind of social mobility. And what are the drivers of that? You have mentioned the case of people getting educated, but they are discouraged in their classrooms by their teachers and so on. And then and we do not find them engaging in any other professions other than this. So therefore the question of social mobility is highly restricted over there. So this is, and it adds on to their precarity, as you have been referring to. So we may want to look at, as you write, obviously, ethnography of this. And last image that you have shown, the food that has been offered, and it becomes the, to use your own word, the nourishment for those who are really there doing this. Now, that I think, the whole life, as you refer to this, I may want to recall one of the novels of, one of the autobiographical writings of Limbale, where he recalls, people living on it, people living almost, he was recalling his own life, where he was living in a small shack bordering the graveyard, so that kind of thing. So we have a large number of similar comparative materials to be brought in to analyze this. So therefore, I'm not very sure whether my usage of the term civilizational question is right or wrong, but then there is something which it opens up. Maybe we see this across India, this kinds of situation, and then we really want to, develop this. I think I'm also not very sure, this some of the writings of scholars in the Tamil region. But that is more in relation to Sudalai modern cult and all that, which I am sure is familiar to you. So we have cases for, kind of comparative analysis which should come out of this, and then which will definitely create a very solid social science knowledge on this particular community and what they feel about themselves, how do they talk about the social mobility, and of course it happens in the urban sprawl of Bangalore, and that really complicates the whole thing. Do we think of them as an urban people, or these are things I'm sure people would join to throw light on. So should I speak on the other three, because it will take time, and if there is a second round I can respond to them. So I leave it to other people also to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, now floor is open. You can have your own comments and questions. So do you want to respond for this?
This is to Ravi. Ravi, you are talking not particularly about the scavenger community, if I understand. You are trying to explore about the concept of toilet within the caste system. You are not particularly touching about scavengers within the Dalit community also, if I understand from your presentation. In this context, I would like to broadly pose another question. Since scavengers are considered as related to certain Dalit communities, Ambedkar happens to be one of the pioneers about the Dalits championing rights. Is there a perspective to Ambedkar with regard to scavengers' problems? Can you draw some attention to scavengers' problems from Ambedkar perspective? Is there such a dimension? Can you explore or think about it? The other thing is with regard to Sandeep Viswanath. I think you have presented a good narration. The field story is very good. In my view, I think the communities, the caste communities are seen over the 30-40 years from the dynamics of neoliberal globalization perspective. Caste communities are seen, studied for past 30 to 40 years from neoliberal and globalization perspective, neoliberalism, globalization, privatization dynamics. Given in this, given this kind of dynamics, globalization, privatization, and neoliberalism, there are studies specifically related to some communities like Dalits and so on. From that perspective, can you explore what is the response of globalization towards Gravediggers, or how Gravediggers were able to embrace modernity or globalization? I think such a contemporary perspective should be constructed. Thank you.
I also have a question for Ravi. I guess continuing, you can continue after. My question is, how does your argument stand about the uniqueness related to India and also Hinduism when thinking about the fact that most places in the world build toilets outside.
Any more questions?
Just a couple of observations about what Ravi said. And I think following the the kind of works that we have today, I have particularly in my mind kind of works which our common friend Joel Lee did, for example, for Lucknow, and of course, similar kind of writings that we have. They deal with the same issue, but they have, in this particular work, Joel Lee has really done excellently to, really push further this debate. And I think in your case, this whole civilization argument that you have taken up, and I think it becomes really significant here. And also, the kind of a globality of this, architectural technologies by which toilets have been constructed or commodes have been designed and so on. So those things become, quite significant, although people do not, really talk about that, because, the idea of public sphere that you have brought in. Public sphere, quote unquote, because it cannot be used in that way. But the possibilities of people defecating, talking among themselves, or communicating, etc. And the notion of civility and communication and other kinds of things you have shown, quoting the other authors and offering your critique of that. So those things I think is quite significant when we think about the idea of a public space in different parts of India. And I think there you have a very interesting argument. I just want you to develop those ideas a little more. When as definitely you are developing this into a paper, or it's already a paper in a developed format. So those issues I think is really significant, and also the necessity of offering a critique of this idea of modern versus Western. That I think you were quoting Deepak Chakrabarti. Yeah, so those things become I think really significant. Now, yeah. So when it comes to Sreejesh, as you said about the Dalit colonies, although you mentioned the historical antecedent of that. As a central issue to my mind, was this question of slavery, which made people without land, who never owned land. So if you are really serious about a historical antecedent, that's a point where you need to really locate. In terms of its history. But then what happens is that because it is not really politically recognized in Kerala, when it comes to the question of land, nobody has really examined, although people knew about it, why a large segment of these communities became landless. So that's because of caste slavery, but that is not really discussed in academia or even in when those policies were framed in the 1950s, 60s and 70s. I'm referring to the land reforms and so on. And therefore this colonies, the other question that you raised is the difference in terms of the response of people. I'm sure you know yourself that in the north of Kerala we never had an anti-caste movement. The other day I was talking, sorry for taking time, Joby. I had a conversation with one of my classmates who grew up in Kannur district, in the Pioneer side, and he told me that he used to be served in coconut shells tea. This is not in some 19th century, 1970s he is talking about. He was my MA classmate. So you can imagine, the kind of stuff, but then the social movements were there, two types of social movements were there, but they could not break this until, interestingly enough, a Western missionary threw a tea glass to the head of, the vendor who was giving the pulayas in coconut shells, and this man, this European missionary in a glass. So with that particular thing, this particular practice came to an end in that particular village. I'm talking about. So this were there. But you have had this Gandhian movement of Ananda Tirtha and all that, but you do not find radical mobilization there. I don't know if it explains. The same thing I have seen in Calicut district also. Sorry for time and okay. And now in this region of Kerala, as you know, there were different kinds of movements. So that explains perhaps these differences. So I invite your attention to this. Thank you.
If there are any students who would like to ask questions. No, thank you very much for this session. As Sandeep was saying, the post-lunch session is always a heroic session, a test of character, and all three presentations were such that they kept us engaged. So thank you. I'm offering only footnotes to each of these. This is not addressing the central issues that you raise, which need a lot more time to address. Going in reverse order, a footnote for you, Sandeep. If you're considering questions of caste from the side of the gravediggers, I think you should also look at the fact that the practice of burial is itself caste marked, that not all castes bury. So that would also need to be factored in. That's just, and similar footnote for Sreejesh. You use the word Porambok. Now, I'm not sure, I don't know enough Malayalam or enough Tamil to be sure of this, but I believe in Tamil, Porambok has a more neutral meaning as fallow land. I'm not sure if that is true or not. And I don't know if you know that T.M. Krishna has a whole song on Poramboko. So I was wondering how, Colony Karan, Poramboko, all these acquire a pejorative meaning in Malayalam. Whereas the same word in Tamil Nadu presumably does not carry similar connotations. I don't know. I may be wrong on this, but that felt to me as curious. And for Ravi, very fascinating. And I think you must have already thought about this. What really struck me is the parallels between the toilet and the sanctum sanctorum, the garbhagruha of, both are marked by strict policies regarding touch. And it would be interesting to figure on how, the inversion, it's a kind of dialectic where you come full circle and similar practices are at work to mark off the boundary of the toilet or defecation as an activity and worship as an activity. And touch and untouchability of various kinds functions as part of the boundary making exercise. I thought that would be fascinating to look at. But thank you very much to all three.
Okay, I request three presentators to respond to comments and questions, and we can start. And we have to conclude the session by 3:45.
I'll try to answer questions, but before answering questions, I want to make some points also. See, actually, sir, what is my point is, one is for Kranti. Kranti, my paper is not about scavenging. I'm sorry, I didn't represent what I wanted to argue. My paper is about caste, restructuring the question of caste, not as a hierarchical structure, as a five structure. It is about purity pollution ideology, which the old philosophy, but I'm bringing in a new format. So that is the argument I'm trying to break. But I'm saying that it is if you need to study caste, it comes from polluted, whatsoever it is. Okay, that pollution, industrial revolution, everything changed. But that pollution stands with the scavenging. That's a toilet. Okay, and now she was asking that toilet was constructed outside. Here, toilet was never constructed. That's the point. Here, open defecation. I don't think in Europe there was open defecation. There was chamber pots, right? Inside the hall, they used to shit and they used to throw. That is called something nighttime. There is so many things are there. History, literatures are there. And one more thing you should remember: in London, there were people. All of you should know that in London there were people exclusively to take chamber pots. That is a shit. They used to shit in a chamber, and they will come at night and they will take. That's a huge money. But when the Industrial Revolution happened, when the rules and regulations were formed, they were shifted to other jobs. But in India, we were never allowed to shift. Even if I shift, we are not, I'm still a scavenger. Not because I do scavenging. This is what Ambedkar said. Ambedkar said, caste is not about the labor what we work. Caste is about the marker, the identity which you give on me. That is what I said. Reservation policy is not an upliftment policy, the ladder which I showed. This all of you should know as a social scientist. Many of the people make mistakes even in social scientists. They say reservation is the historical mistake they did. No, it was never a historical mistake. They are asking for you to repeat that. You should know, if you want to know the policy of reservation and caste system, you should read the subclassification judgment. The subclassification judgment, since the beginning, that's a 500 pages judgment, since the beginning it starts to evaluate each and every judgment, how they interpreted reservation. You should know one thing, the first reservation policy in India was asked from the Britishers by the Brahmins. They said that, Brahmins, the Britishers, you are all officers. We need our community to be represented there. Why? It is not that we are not qualified. You are not understanding us. Therefore, we need to be represented there. Similarly, in reservation, we did not ask, you don't understand us. You are not letting us to be there. How many schools Dalits were allowed to sit? Ambedkar was thrown out of the college now. Why? Because he studied law? Because he went to Columbia? He didn't have language. He was thrown out. How many years Dalits fought for Ambedkar to be a national leader? 1990. When did he get Bharat Ratna? He fought, he was a Constitutional Assembly debate, he was a chairperson. Where did they get recognized? Why? Caste. It is caste. IITs, suicides. Why? Is it because merit? No. Why reservation policies? There are two kinds of argument which was represented by the judiciary. One argument was, see, these people are coming from a different background and they are being harassed. They have to be protected. So you have to reserve 18%, then only you will take. That's why OBC was given. The second argument was, how do you give them? You can't say that one first come first serve. There was some mechanism. That mechanism was, we will put a cutoff mark there. Then we will have a cutoff mark here. That was the cutoff mark, that was the rules. That does not mean to say that we don't have legs to stand on the two stools. See, today I have studied, okay, leave that. I'll tell only one thing. Merit is not an argument at all, okay? It is about caste, is not about merit. Today, even if I do president, you know that President Draupadi was not allowed into a temple. Why? So basically, that is what caste. Okay, now I'll conclude. So what my argument was, to restructure this caste question. Caste is not Brahmin versus the Dalits. No. Dalits versus the Dalits. No. Among Dalits there is discrimination. Brahmins there is discrimination. Caste is not a community. Caste is an individual phenomenon. That's what I'm trying to say. There is no community. Each Dalit will say, all pariahs are not equal. All pariahs will never support each other, including the Brahmins. Madhyas of the Brahmins in the North India, Brahmins in the South India don't go each other. There might be cultural unity, but that is not a community. Caste can never have a community. At last, I'll end my point. Caste philosophy is built with the hatredness. Okay, there can never be love. How the hatredness comes is our self body. We hate our shit. We say our shit, our puberty, and our hair, our left hand, our right hand, mother dead body. All these have caste. You don't. Hinduism teaches you to hate yourself. Your mother is dead. You call her dead body. And you don't even say that it is a bad woman. You say, your daughter, my mother couldn't go to Ayyappa temple, but you will say that is approved. You will say your sister should not marry another upper caste or Dalit. I will kill him, kill her. Why? For me, caste is important. The proud is important. Hatred is important than the love. So this all comes from the toilet. That's what I was trying to argue. Okay, thank you. It's a big paper, but sir, that is the argument, sir. And one more thing, one last thing, another one. See, burial ground, dead bodies were allowed into the temples, sir. Dead bodies are allowed into the church. Never a toilet. Christians in the abroad build toilets, many numbers. In India, Christianity built only 2 toilets for the namesake. Go to the churches, Indian churches functions. That is where we say caste is there. But sir, Sanctum, you were saying about Hinduism. Hinduism never allows temple. Go to Sabarimala. Why the Pamba river, Ganga river, all rivers polluting? You don't have toilet. And public toilets are not there. Temple never approved Dalits to enter into it. and the toilet were never allowed into the temple. That's the point, sir. And I believe that these are very important. Yeah. But in Islam, toilet is allowed. So therefore, the radical, you talk about caste system among Islam is very different from Christianity has caste, Sikhism has caste, everybody does not allow toilet. Okay, thank you. This is a big debate. It comes around. I'm developing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanil sir, for your constructive comments on my paper. I have mentioned in my paper that there is a regional variability, especially in south, north and middle. There is a clear-cut division in the expression and their organizing and their assertion, something like that. Sanil sir also mentioned that, which also connected with what kind of movement happened in past in Malabar. So I accept that thing because I need in-depth study, because study is ongoing. I need an in-depth studies to understand what kind of variable, what are the social, political and cultural dimensions is playing a significant and determined role in shaping the political subjectivity and self-identity of the Dalits in these different regions. So that I need to study more. Also, Satish sir also mentioned, I'm just using some of the term, especially Malayalam term, that Kolonikar, Purampok. All the terms when I am using, because that is very, what we'll call more, to connect with the people. The entire terms are connect, because that is in every place, if when we visit in the colony, there is a talk, I mean very normal talk between the people that, they are a colony car, don't go and play with that children's. That kind of term they are using normally in their life. I mean those who are living in the outside. So that kind of term ultimately create a kind of image about the colony car. They are something separate, marginalized, something alienated. So that's why I'm just mentioning that technical, I mean that local languages also. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have made a note in my thing. In terms of globalization, you were talking. A lot of things have happened. My focus is on the life trajectories of the workers in the graveyard. But within the global context, as in this context of globalization also, there have been a lot of attempts. See, some communities naturally deviated from burying to cremation because of lack of space. I was very surprised. I'm all still curious. How did that very naturally happen? Maybe it was easy for people. I don't have evidences or analysis on that. But certain communities were also very strict in burial. So what the BBMP has done is to put permanent structures on a burial, whatever the grave, is actually illegal nowadays, 2014 onwards. So it also means a lot, because gravediggers, apart from burying the body, they received money. They also made little money by building those structures, by selling the stone, by doing the masonry. And it also means year on year they could upkeep it, and when the ritual came they can also clean that and make money. With this new law coming into picture, there's a lot of repercussion on their, the possibility of income generation. There are some anecdotes and instances like this, but yeah, I will look into it. But the major thing is the historical context, which is a generational occupation in that sense. So yeah, thank you.
I think it's time to conclude the session. No further comments from the chair. Due to time constraints, we have to conclude now. So I thank Mr. Ravichandran, Mr. Sreejesh, and Mr. Sandeep Viswanath for coming and presenting their papers. It was really interesting. Actually, it was one of the theme actually connected to our major theme, marginality, memory, and resistance. So thank you very much.